Record being pressed. Someone press record.
5, 4, 3, 2.
I'm John, and tonight I want answers about Syria. There's no stopping us now, because we're live.
John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers. Give John answers. John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers now.
Check your calendar. If it says September 12th, 2013, then we're live. My guest tonight...
Who uses calendars anymore?
People can
They
look at
don't
their
look up
phones.
on their phone.
Look on your phone. If it says September 12th, then we're live. My guest tonight is Keith Statenfield. He's the host of Keith Explains, another fine show on this channel. Wednesdays at 8:30.
Yes.
He's my guest because he's a news junkie, history buff,
Yes.
and I don't know why I have you as a guest sometimes. I don't know why else.
I'm totally with you. You need
Also-
more friends.
What?
You need more friends.
I do need more friends.
Yeah.
Yes, it's becoming clear. Also today, we're going to have David Ledesma on the show. He's going to come on a little bit later and refute everything we have said up until then. If you've never seen the show before, the show's like a courtroom drama. I'm the prosecutor, my guest is the expert witness, and you at home and in the audience are the jury. And it's your job to acquit or convict the topic.
That's more of what a grand jury does.
The grand jury?
Yeah.
Juries also convict people.
Well, they do,
Okay.
but
Okay. We'll be taking your tweets. So you can tweet us at John Wants Answer. There's no S on the end because the S is for suck and we do not.
hey, Twitter announced their IPO today.
Oh,
Maybe they'll make usernames one letter longer after they're public, and you can put an S on the end.
well, we can only hope.
Yeah.
Buy a bunch of stock up and then bring it up at the shareholder meeting for me.
Okay. Consider it done.
If you don't like using Twitter, and I don't blame you, IPO aside, you can go to my website, johnwantsanswers.com, click on the Contact tab, and then you can write us a message, and I'll read it at the same time I read the tweets. So you won't be lost in the shuffle. We have a Twitter/message me from the website contest. If you're the first to message me saying you want a promotional photo, then I'll get out later. I will send you an autographed promotional photo of me, and I'll autograph it saying, "Thanks, viewer, for watching my show. You're the only one."
Are you actually going to
For
send
me.
it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm behind a little bit, but I'm going to catch up tonight because Gordon sent a request last month,
Yeah.
and tonight I'm dedicated to signing one and giving it to him before
What
he's gone.
about the guy from 8 months ago?
Yeah, I gotta look out and see who that is.
Yeah.
I've lost track. Jack. This show cannot be made possible without the continuing generosity of our executive producers, Lisa Tamaki.
Tamaki.
Okay.
I think it's Tamaki.
I think it's Tamaki
No, I think you're putting a Canadian
and
awk in the
Brian
center.
Westphal.
Westphal. That one I'm sure of.
Okay. Our first topic, Syria. All right, Syria, in the news a lot. Lots of happening.
Lately.
Let's start off with, where is Syria?
Wait. Before you put up the map,
Uh-huh.
ask your viewers at home to mentally guess where Syria is.
Mentally think, where is Syria? Okay, I've pictured it in my head. You got it in your head?
Yeah, I know where it is.
All right, let's put the map. Let's see where Syria is. Were you thinking that? Were you thinking it was right there? I was.
And by right there, you
Because-
mean the red thing.
Yeah, the red blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, the red blob is Syria. I made the map so I remember where it was. So that's Middle East. So if you say Middle East starts at Libya, would you say that, and goes all the way to like India?
No.
Is that Middle East, or where does Middle
No.
East start?
Middle
Like
East
Mid-
starts kind of probably north of Egypt and ends
So it's kind of like West Middle East.
Turkey. I mean, Turkey's
Like
kind
a-
of in the Middle East, kind of not in the Middle East.
It's the Midwest of the Middle East. Let's zoom in and get more detail here. So it's right there beside Lebanon.
Yeah, it's not red anymore either.
It's not what?
Don't be fooled by that at home, people.
It's not what?
It's not red anymore.
Oh yeah. No, we zoomed in. It's not red anymore. Borders Iraq. It borders Jordan. It borders Turkey.
Yeah.
A little bit touches Israel. Is that
It
right?
does, yeah.
Okay.
A little
bit.
more or
Little
less than used to touch Israel.
Changes all the time. Okay.
Well, twice.
Syria's been around for a long time.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't.
Well, I remember reading about Damascus in the Bible.
Yes,
Right?
but it wasn't called Syria then.
Well,
Just part of the vast Ottoman Empire. I mean, before that was part of the Roman Empire.
yeah. Well, I mean, all land.
Syria's from like this last century now.
So I know after World War I,
Yes.
it became a French protectorate. Is that when
Yeah.
it became known as Syria, or before that?
Yeah, I think roughly then.
Okay.
I mean, Syria is kind of a local name. So it might have been known as Syria, but it had roughly the borders it has now after World War I.
Then in the 1940s, I think 1946, it got independence.
Yeah. After
'cause-
World War II, made a lot of things independent.
Yeah, like the France didn't feel like having it anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, okay, you can become
Colonies, they didn't
independent
work
now.
no more.
And as I understand it now, there was a lot of turmoil. Well, there's always a turmoil, I guess, in Syria. There's a lot of turmoil between them becoming independent and about 1970. A lot of coups and stuff.
Well, they became independent, and then they became not independent fairly quickly.
Oh, really? Who?
Because,
did-
like, by the early 1950s, they had military coups that had taken over.
Yeah, but not from other countries.
Well, no, almost all from within.
Yeah. 1970, Hafez al-Assad became president.
El Presidente.
El Presidente. Now, it's not quite a democracy, right? He kind
Yeah,
of
it's not quite a democracy. It's
He-
yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
he did a coup, I guess.
Kind of things
and
like
became,
not quite tea.
became a dictator, right? And
Yeah, well, president.
And just like Egypt did, he suspended elections because there was a state of emergency that lasted
Yes.
for like 40 years
Yeah.
until recently.
Not 2012.
Yeah. So state of emergency. So he was president until he died.
Yeah, it's a good job if you can get it.
And as luck would have it, his son gets elected.
Yeah.
No opposition. He ran for president.
Well,
and
no
one ran
official
against him.
opposition.
Yeah. Well, there's opposition.
None of
to
the opposition
idea.
made it to election day.
Indeed. So then we had Hafez al-Assad died in 1970. And then, no. Died in 2000.
Yeah.
Ruled from 1970 to 2000.
Yeah.
And then his son, Bashar al-Assad, who's the president now, that's
Yeah.
when he started. So 13 years ago. For now, we'll see if that number goes up or not.
Every day it goes up by another day.
Yeah, but it might not go up another year. Okay, so that's all you need to know about the history of Syria.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got 22 minutes to kill.
So then, they're having an uprising right now, if I recall.
Yes.
There's now uprising / civil war. It's hard
It's
to
fuzzy.
say.
It's a very fuzzy concept.
Yes. So there's, and if you ask Bashar al-Assad, Charlie Rose did a few nights ago.
He did.
On the television. He's saying it's not really a civil war. It's terrorists.
Yeah.
Who are just mucking stuff up. It's Al-Qaeda.
And Al Qaeda affiliates.
Yes.
And
friends of Al-Qaeda, and maybe
Kurdish terrorists.
foreigners
Foreigners.
coming in and making problems.
Yeah.
So he
He
thinks
said
his
all
people,
of those things.
He says people support him. He couldn't be president if his people didn't support him, and he would step
They
down.
wouldn't elect him.
He would step down.
They'd
if he
elect
knew.
that other
Yeah.
guy
Yeah, the other guy
who's
who
not on the ballot.
Right. So is this uprising part of Arab Spring?
Well, in that the Arab Spring wasn't official. I mean,
It's something we gave a name to.
it's something we gave a name to.
When all these countries had the people-
A number of countries at seemingly the same point in time, spring of 2011, experienced upwellings of support for a change of government.
Mm-hmm.
And in many of those, it was, let's try and make our government more representative of our desires for a government in a country. And we called that the Arab Spring. And in some sense, when you see the country next to yours possibly getting better, maybe that makes you a little more likely to think, hey, something could happen here.
Well, As you
It's
saw on
also
the map.
probably a little bit the case that, just age-wise, some of the people lined up. A lot of them had taken over in the 70s and 80s, and they were all getting old. And the internet and other technologies have made it easier, even in countries like Syria and Egypt.
Twitter takes down countries, is what I heard.
Twitter was supposedly responsible for a lot of the organizing that was done in Egypt because
But now they're a mess.
it wasn't, they're not, overthrowing your government
They're going
isn't
through growing
always the
pains.
best thing,
Yeah.
seemingly, sadly.
So, what do the rebels or opposition want in this case in Syria?
I think they want Assad not to be president anymore.
Do they want like a
And what they want in
democratic-
particular might depend more on who they are. The Kurdish fraction of the opposition would like to be part of a Kurdish country, and they would like to take part of Iraq away from Iraq, and part of Turkey away from Turkey, and part of Syria away from Syria, and form what
Oh, they want like a new...
here we call Kurdistan, because they are largely Kurds, and they are culturally different.
They want a whole new
then-
country made of 3 different countries. Kind of.
Probably more Turkey
Yeah.
than Syria, but
So they're fighting in Syria for that.
well, they are and have been against the government of Syria, and they were against the government of Iraq, and they're not happy with the government of Turkey either.
Okay. They're just generally unhappy, it sounds.
Assad is not a pleasant president. He and his family rule rather authoritatively.
With an iron thumb, is that the...
Iron
Fist?
fist is often what it's called.
I've heard that like 100,000 people have been killed in this skirmish
That's the latest.
in the
That's
last couple of years.
a very reasonable number from what
Yeah.
I understand. I don't
And the
know
population is, how much population we have? A few million? 3 million? 5 million? I don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
No, I know where Syria
Millions.
is.
I
That
know
put
the-
me above like 50% of.
I know Damascus has like 1 million people, over 1 million people in that city alone. So they got a few million people there. And you have like many people who are rebelling for different reasons.
Yeah.
So if
And
you...
geographically, the rebels largely hold the northern part of the country.
Okay.
And the southern part of the country is more governmental.
If you believe Bashar al-Assad, as he speaks to Charlie Rose, he wants to keep Syria a secular state, which basically means a country not ruled by religious people, right?
Not as ruled by religious people as as some of the other Arab states are.
And so it sounds like the Kurds want to be ruled by religious...
I don't know that the Kurds are that. The Muslim Brotherhood is also active in Syria. They're not
Right.
Kurdish. They
They're
would
Muslim.
certainly like even more Islamic attributes of law. Syrian law is still largely based on Sharia law.
What
but-
is Sharia law?
Sharia law is law based on the Quran.
Okay.
Syria, the president of Syria has to be Muslim.
Oh,
It's
okay.
in the constitution.
Wow.
But they officially say we're not a Muslim state. And there are other religious and cultural people in Syria. There are Christians. I believe they're mostly Sunni Muslims, which means they're more allied with people of Iraq and less allied with the people of Saudi Arabia and Iran.
Okay. So we have this civil war going on, and now the U.S. seems to might want to get involved. Is it because we see atrocities, 100,000 people getting killed, and we want to go in for humanitarian reasons? Or do we want to go in because it's a threat to our security somehow, or is it a different reason?
I'm kind of grasping at straws as to how it's a terribly significant threat to our security, except to the minor extent that a functioning iron-fisted government of Syria, which has chemical or biological weapons in warehouses, is likely to keep those weapons in warehouses.
As
whereas
President
a
Obama told
completely messed up country in which people are just carrying things out of museums because there's no guards, those weapons could end up with someone other than an iron-fisted government, and so could get used. So there's some possibility that they can get used against us. I don't think that's the biggest problem.
President Obama told me on Tuesday,
Yes.
he said, if we let a country use chemical weapons and don't do anything about it, then we're saying all countries can use chemical weapons with no repercussions.
Almost.
So we need to repercuss.
We signed a treaty that said that.
The
Back after World
Chemical
War I.
Weapons Convention?
Yeah, the Geneva
I was
Treaty
told-
against the use of chemical and later biological weapons.
I don't know if it's conspiracy theories or what I heard, but I heard we used chemical weapons in Vietnam?
I don't know if
Sarin
we use
gas
chemical
or-
weapons. We use
Agent Orange?
napalm, which
Agent
is,
Orange, what's that?
Agent Orange isn't a chemical weapon, it's a defoliant. So it kills plants. And they dropped massive amounts of Agent Orange on it because the Viet Cong were good at hiding in the jungle. And if we made the jungle go away, it was harder for them to hide.
I heard stories that we used sarin gas in Iraq. Is that
We didn't
true?
use sarin gas.
Sarin gas was
Saddam
used?
Hussein used sarin gas against the Kurds in the north, and he used it against the Iranians in the east, and he used it against some of his own people when there were localish uprisings against him.
So officially, we have not used chemical weapons since World War I.
I don't know if the U.S. used any chemical weapons in World War I. I think it was more the British and the Germans. But chemical weapons in an officially sanctioned war that the Allied States have participated in have not been used since the 1920s.
Okay. Now, why is the use of chemical weapons the so-called red line you can't cross? Like, I would think if a country like Syria is killing 100,000 of their citizens, that should be like the red line. People are dying. We should move in and help them. Why is the chemical weapons the turning point? Have to be the turning point.
Largely, it kind of goes back to there's this concept of a just war, where when God says it's okay to go to war, then you can go to war, and then there are all kinds of rules about it. Like, in a just war, you can only shoot other soldiers. And you only shoot other soldiers who are still fighting against you. So if the other soldier drops his weapon and holds up a white flag, you can't shoot him anymore.
Oh,
And you shouldn't shoot civilians, and you shouldn't shoot women and children. And if you capture soldiers, you have to take them to a prisoner of war camp, and you have to give them, feed them, and you have to give them medicine if necessary. And chemical weapons and things like napalm, which we did use, don't discriminate in who they kill. Which is, if you spread chemical weapons across the war ground, they might kill the guys that have decided to stand there with the white flags up.
Okay.
So they're unjust.
So Obama, instead of going in using military force in Syria, he actually went to Congress and asked Congress to approve military action, which I heard is like an almost unheard of thing in the last
Almost
40
unheard
years.
In the last 200 years.
Didn't I remember?
But in the last 40 years, it matters in particular because just after Watergate, or just as Watergate was happening, and as the Vietnam War, which was a disaster in a lot of ways, was winding down, Congress passed what was called the War Powers Act, which was intended to restrict the ability of the president to send troops off places. The Constitution says technically Congress has to declare war. Vietnam was never declared a war. Korea before it was never declared a war. The last declared war we've had ever was World War II, when we declared war on Germany and Japan and the Axis powers.
Didn't Bush go to Congress saying, hey, let's go to Iraq?
He did, but Congress didn't declare war.
But they let him
They did,
go?
because in 1973 they passed this thing called the War Powers Act that says even though the president is in charge of the military and, well, technically the president could send troops off for a long time without ever bothering to get war declared, and he's the commander-in-chief, so he's the guy that gets to send them, and what's Congress going to do? Well, they can declare war or not, but it doesn't matter because the president sends the troops.
So he went to Congress, but he didn't really ask for their permission.
So the War Powers Act says if the president sends troops somewhere for more than 60 days, he has to go tell Congress about it and get a vote in Congress authorizing it.
Okay.
And that authorization is in a declaration of war, but it's an authorization.
All right. We have to stop for a break now. When we come back, we're going to hear from David Ledesma. And we're going to take your tweets. So stay right there.
All right.
Where's he going to sit, man?
He's going to sit right here. We've got a chair ready to go. We've got a mic ready to go. We've got a
We
guy
don't have a
ready to
chair.
go.
There's no chair here.
There's a chair's going to come from behind the curtain. With a mic.
Man, It's like magic.
This is like a high production value show we're doing here.
Why? Why does David's chair have rollers?
Because you are not authorized to rock. Rock on!
This seems unfair.
No.
You lost.
There
lost
was
rock
certain-
privileges there, Keith.
We had to make certain steps against you for violation of the motion sickness law of 2010.
Really? I must have missed that one.
I got complaints.
Way
We
too
got
conduct.
Are you
tweets
gonna
saying,
tell Keith that he
stop that
confused the
guy
Shiites
from...
and his Sunnis?
Yeah.
All right, you'll tell
You got
him.
that backwards.
Okay, got that backwards.
Syria's not Sunni?
Syria
No,
is
Shiite.
Sunni, or
I
is
thought
it?
that's what I said. Syria and Iraq are Sunni?
No,
No.
Iraq is mostly Shiite.
Yeah, Iraq is mostly Shia. Saddam was a Sunni.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabians are Shiites.
I hope you were taking notes.
Well, I guess northern Iraq is Sunni, right? Because
Or
he's
Sunni,
from...
excuse me.
We have a
Saudi
map right
Arabia
here.
is Sunni.
We can point to it. But they can't see us pointing
And
to
the
that.
southern, right, because Saudi Arabia is down here, Saudi Arabia is Shia, and the Shias
Mhm.
kind of come up through here, and they sweep up, and Iran is almost entirely.
How's this audio?
Okay. They're doing a Dave.
Everything okay?
Look at Keith. Look
Okay.
at John just talking. Right.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. How did you drive here today?
You're good. You are
By
good.
car.
Dave,
Okay.
you are good.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
We're back in 5, 4, 3.
And we're back. And we're with my friend, David Ledesma. Thanks for coming on the show, David.
Thank you for having me.
Am I saying your name right?
Yes, you are.
Good,
Thanks.
good. So I know David because I walk to Valley Fair Mall every Saturday. And on the way, I go by the intersection of Stevens Creek and Winchester, where David's been every Saturday and Sunday since the start of the Iraq War. And you're there every week with a peace flag
Yep.
and some signs saying stop the war and
Anti-militarism.
books, not bombs, and a few other things. Yeah.
Correct.
So you've been there for 12
10 and a half years.
10 and a half years, wow.
No, the second Iraq War.
Yeah, right.
And so sometimes you're by yourself, sometimes you have a crew with you,
Right.
volunteers.
Right.
So that's dedication. So tell me, you've got a very personal viewpoint on war because something happened to you.
Right.
What happened to you?
On May 20th, 1967, my oldest brother was killed in Vietnam. He was 20 years old. He was drafted out of West Valley College into the Army, and he was killed less than a year later. And, I was a young kid, and it was very traumatic for the family, of course. And I didn't talk about his death for 36 years until Iraq. When the Iraq War was winding up, all my memories came flooding back to me, and I got very angry. I got very anxious, and I was just glued to the TV, C-SPAN, and all they said, they can't do this. Don't people remember Vietnam? And most people, in their 40s didn't remember Vietnam. They weren't around, or they were very
Before my
young.
time, yeah.
So I heard about a protest in San Jose against the war, and I'd never done anything like that in my life. And I said, I'm going. So I went, and then I felt so good because I felt like I was the only person that felt the way that I felt. Earlier, you guys were talking about Bush going to Congress and Congress voting on him going into Iraq. Part of that frenzy was the media. The media was really a lockstep with the Bush administration, really pumping up this war. So public sentiment went straight to Bush and going into Iraq. And so I felt like I was alone in the way I felt. So when I went to this protest, there were thousands of people there. I just felt like, man, there's other people that feel the way that I feel. And so they chose that corner to go protest. And, after 2 or 3 weeks of the war going on, they stopped. And I said, we can't stop. We have to keep going. So I've been out there ever since.
Okay, good job. So did everything we talk about Syria, Keith and I, did we get everything right?
Thank you for having me on this show, so I could help clarify things for everybody. There were so many things.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't sure what the format was going to be exactly, but I'll just say that I don't know how much time we have left. That I don't believe that the chemical weapons is the real reason that we're going into war. I mean, the United States has used chemical weapons. Agent Orange is a chemical weapon that was used in Vietnam. Not only did it destroy all the vegetation in Vietnam, but it poisoned those people. And today they're still suffering from the effects of Agent Orange. There's still deformations of babies that's happening in Vietnam. As recently as Iraq, the United States used chemical weapons, white phosphorus, depleted uranium, and we also used something that's not a chemical weapon, but cluster bombs, which are illegal. We used all those weapons in Iraq, and nobody said anything about it. So now, all of a sudden, the United States is saying, well, you know, Assad used chemical weapons in Syria against his own people. It's like, well, if that isn't the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. And not only that, but they really don't have proof that Assad is the one that used the chemical weapons. They're pretty sure that chemical weapons were used. We've all seen the videos. UN has gone in, they've taken samples, and it takes time to go through those samples to find out exactly what the content of the chemicals were. Reports that have come out recently are that there's chances are it looks like it's a very low grade of sarin that was used, something that Assad doesn't have. He has these very high grade military style chemical weapons that are, you know, manufactured in clean rooms and that kind of thing.
So you think someone used chemical weapons
Well,
to
it's
make
very
it look
possible.
like it was?
I mean, if you take a look at why would Assad, you know, attack his own people with chemical weapons when Obama already stated a year ago the red line is if he uses chemical weapons. So, you know, miraculously, he wouldn't do that to himself. Why would he do that when they're winning the Civil War? So it's in the interest of the rebels, al-Nusra, who is a fundamentalist group, Al-Qaeda. It's in their interest to use the chemical weapons to try to bring the U.S. into the fight, to back them up. You were talking about the Arab Spring earlier. I don't think that Syria is part of the Arab Spring. Arab Spring is a very wonderful thing. When it started in Tunisia, there was such a popular uprising that they actually threw the president out. He fled the country. And the same thing in Egypt when you have Mubarak, who was a dictator for 36 years, and they actually arrested him and they put him on trial.
Right.
He was in prison. So that's only going to happen when there's such a massive uprising of the people. That's not happening in Syria. There are people that are rising up, these rebels. It's a small group. The population of Syria is not rising up to get rid of Assad. It's not happening. So I don't believe it's part of the Arab Spring.
All right. And you mentioned earlier that you think some motivation behind the U.S. coming in was this pipeline.
Right.
And while you talk about that, I'm going to check our tweets. So you tell us about what you think the U.S. motivations are. And I'll be looking up
All right.
our tweets.
You want me to talk about it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's become clear there's articles on the internet that you can check out for yourself. But originally, Syria was going to build a pipeline. There's some natural gas reserves in the Red Sea, right in the middle of the Red Sea. And from the graphics on the map, a third of it belongs to Iran, and the other 2/3, I'm approximating, belongs to Qatar. So originally, Syria had agreed with Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, to build a pipeline from the Red Sea through those countries to feed Europe with natural gas.
Okay. Take our tweet. We have a tweet we have to take. What's the difference between Syria and Assyria?
Wow.
I think Assyria is closer to Russia.
Oh, so it's actually a country? I haven't heard of that name before.
No. I think it's also a biblical name for, I think Assyria was where Syria is and stretched up through eastern Turkey.
It's kind of an ancient...
into southern...
Okay, well,
I'm either wrong or we're out of
I brought
time.
my goggles.
All right. Well, we've got to stop. Our next show is October 10th. And stay tuned. Tonight, after my show, we'll have Stranger Music and then What the Bleep. So, great show, guys. High five.